Proud of You is a parenting advice podcast and support group for dads hosted by two goofy dads. They are not pediatricians, nutritionists, OBGYNs, psychologists, nor are they authorities on parenting. They're just two dinguses trying to figure it all out. Their advice should not be taken as expert information. Parenting looks different for everyone, and there's no wrong way to be a dad. Frankly, if you're taking the time to listen to a podcast about it, you're already doing a great job. And these dads are proud of you.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story. And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
Hey, welcome back. I'm Derek Mata.
And I am Andrew Goody. And this week we are talking about something a little bit heavier. We're talking about comparing your life to others. Derek, you launched this topic. Why don't you give our listeners a little bit of insight?
So this is kind of a two kind of thing. So like, yes, comparing your life to others, but also like let's go back a little further. So I read a story a couple of years ago. It was a letter that a mom wrote to other moms called Vacuum Lines. And I recommend any parent, but especially dads, to go and read this. And the comparison part is you walk into somebody else's house and like, how do you keep your house so clean? How do you keep the vacuum lines on your floor? And yes, honey, I know you're going to hate me for it. My wife wants those vacuum lines at all times. She wants a clean house at all times, but that is how she was raised. But we tend to forget that like our kids are kids only for a small amount of time. So I want to say I was maybe my early 20s at this point. So well over 10 years ago when I first read this, and it has stuck with me ever since because it has meant so much. But not until recently has it really hit home, because Noah's about to be 4 years old. Ivy's about to be 3 years old. And I'm just watching my life fly by in front of me. And like the vacuum lines, don't worry about the vacuum lines. All right. Like it is a conversation that I have had with my wife. Like, okay, cool. You watch the TikToks where everybody has that clean house, pristine house right there. Watch the other TikToks where they kind of pan over a little bit and it's a mess.
Yeah. Well, and we've talked about that a little bit, right? Like we talked about it a little on our screen time episode, in regards to us and screen time, and have touched on it in a couple of different ways that like, it's so easy to play that comparison game, looking at people on the internet and what good parents they are, or what beautiful Montessori playroom they have, or how their house is always just immaculate, right? And like, I know my wife loves like organizational videos, right? Like fridge hacks and like weird ways to put away your socks so you can fit more of them in the drawer, but then minimalize so you have less socks to put in your drawer, like whatever. I'm so much less concerned with that. And I think most of the time when it comes to like cleanliness, well, not, and this isn't a hill that I will die on. My house is clean, but my house is lived in. My house is
thank you.
Not
thank
dirty.
you.
It is disorganized. It is chaotic because I have a 2-year-old. It is not germ infested and dirty. And I think there's a difference, right? And it's important to recognize that.
And that's a huge thing. Like the first time I walked into your house, like my mind didn't go to, man, he is just like a messy person. I was like, there is a child who lives here. These people live in their house the way a house should be lived in. And again, honey, don't take this the wrong way, but like our friends, Goody, you come over and I'm assuming you probably think the same thing. Like,
yeah,
you don't care if the floors are spotless and shiny. You're like, hey, I'm here for some beers and burgers. Like, let's fucking hang out.
And on the flip side, I'm sure Emily had a heart attack that I invited you over to our house with it looking the way it did, because that, and it's something that, and like I think as you know, what I started to say, like I think dads are less worried about like the cleanliness side of it, but like dads get wrapped up in some weird stuff too, right? Like I think lawn stripes are the vacuum lines of
Yeah.
the dude
Yeah,
world,
yeah,
right?
you're
Like
right there.
if there's weeds in the front yard when you pull up, I'm like, oh man, like I'm not doing my job. Like, and that's just weird societal stereotypical bullshit. But like, you know, it's it, everybody wants to present themselves well, right? With very little exception, everybody wants to be perceived as successful and happy and put together. Um, and what that means to different people varies dramatically, right? And so, like for me, if you come over and there are toys on the floor, that's not unsuccessful or not put together to me. We have a 2-year-old. Of course, there are toys on the floor. Do we
Yeah,
put them away sometimes? Yeah, so that she can pull them out and throw them on the floor again because she likes pulling stuff off shelves.
and
Like,
that's toddlers. Mine do it too. And getting back to the story is they were so they loved those vacuum lines so much that they wished that they could have those. And you know what? Eventually, time passes. We get older a lot faster than we reach adulthood. My 30s are flying by. How the fuck I'm 35, I have no idea. I'm gonna wake up tomorrow, I'm gonna be 40, 45, and I'm gonna be like, I wish I was still in my 20s. But you know what I can't get back is my kids being kids. Like it's the lawn stripes. Like, is it cool? Yes. Is the vacuum lines cool? Is a clean house cool? Sure. My kids being kids and enjoying themselves and just expressing themselves, like I feel personally that that is more important than a clean house. And
yeah,
a clean house, okay, not a clean house, an organized house,
yeah,
because my house is also very clean, but it is disorganized because I have children. um and I try to tell my wife this all the time: let them be kids, please. Just like be. And the one thing, another thing, like I sit on Facebook Reels on my lunchtime. I go to my little quiet room and I scroll Facebook Reels, and Mr. Rogers said it. I saw this reel today. Like, remember your own childhood when raising your children. Remember the good times that you had and what it was like to be a child. Like, we live in this, lean, minimalistic environment, and our kids are suffering, air quotes for those who are listening on Spotify or anything else, are suffering because they can't build their couch forts, their blanket forts, their whatever forts, because, oh God, what if somebody shows up suddenly? Like, think of when we were kids. We did everything. We got muddy, we got dirty, we built things, we threw things, like that kind of thing. Like,
yeah,
don't forget who you were to create a
dude,
perfect child.
totally. And like, I think it's important to like it's important to understand what your priorities are, right? Because if the organization of your home and the if those vacuum lines really mean that much to you, go for it. Like that's cool. That's not who I am at all. Like
Or
and
me.
and and I don't judge people for having that. Frankly, I respect it and I'm jealous of it. And like that's the hard comparison, right? Is
Same,
I'm like, man,
same.
how are you like you have this good relationship with your kids and you have your shit together? How are you doing what you're doing, right? But like, I it's so important to just let your kids be kids and also just I love that quote from Mr. Rogers of just remembering what childhood was like because that's been like honestly, it's been such a blessing having Alana because like I'm always like I'm a big old fucking lost boy, like never grow up. I
I
have
mean,
my
look
life
at
together. I have a
yourself.
big yeah, right? Like I have a corporate job and a wife and a house and I have my life put together and like I don't want to be grown up. I want to have fun. I want to play. I want to, just get lost in life and get too busy to put my toys away, right? Like,
and keep going, because I want to say
yeah.
something without cutting you off here.
Well, and I was gonna say you mentioned forts and like I've like core memory level stuff before Alana was born. It was actually in the last house that we lived in. I came home from work one day, and Emily had built a blanket fort in our living room. And like it was the two of us, right? Like two 20-something-year-old adults, like no kids, no nothing. She built a blanket fort. And so like I got home from work and I had had like a long stressful day and she was like, do you want to watch a movie in the fort? And like the way
Yes.
that our living room was set
Yes.
up, like we had our entertainment center and the TV and then like three couches around it. She had dragged the mattress off of our bed out to the living room and put it like so that the couches were surrounding it and like built a teepee of blankets up to the ceiling fan in the center of the room and like hung Christmas lights inside of the like
Ah, that's
Emily
awesome.
Emily Blanket Fort's like a pro, man. And so like I had this big, long, exhausting day at my fancy corporate job as an adult, and then I came home and I like stripped off my shirt and tie and climbed into this blanket fort and we watched I don't even know. I think it was a Harry Potter musical while we like hung out and ate popcorn and played together in a fort like in our
See,
late 20s, right? And like
I love that. Like I as a 35-year-old man, I want to do that. And like I want
yeah,
my kids to experience that. Because what I was gonna say is like I am guilty of trying to make my kids grow up too fast. Because as we have discussed in previous podcasts and previous episodes, I never had childhood. I never really had a father. It was like I had to grow up really fast. So something like that is super awesome. Like for those not watching, like when you were explaining that, I had this huge shit-eating grin on my face because like I'd love that. But at the same time, like I know as Noah turns 4, I'm sitting there and he's doing his 4-year-old thing, and I'm getting upset with it. And like because I want him to act what as an adult, like and that's not fair to him. And so like I saw that video today about Mr. Rogers saying, "Don't forget your own childhood," and I was just like, I don't. And granted, some of us do not have great childhoods. Remember the good times, because that was the next
yeah.
part of that. When you remember your childhood, remember the good times. Remember those little things that made you love being a child, even as small as playing with Hot Wheels outside on the sidewalk. You drew chalk pictures on the driveway. Like don't forget those happy moments and share those with your kids. Like chalk is cheap. Amazon, everything's cheap on Amazon. Or, I've been guilty. eBay. eBay has everything even cheaper than Amazon nowadays. Um, like just be a kid sometimes. Like there is a time for the vacuum lines. There's a time for the stripes in the lawn. My lawn right now does not look perfect. I have not edged it or trimmed it or whatever on the outside, but you know what? Like yesterday I played Candyland with Ivy. It was me, April, Ivy, and Noah. We sat there and we played Candyland.
Heck yeah, man.
And because that's what Noah wanted to do. And I bet you like in his little 3, almost 4-year-old brain, he is going to remember that at some point that dad didn't sit on his phone. Dad didn't watch Sports Center. And that's not a me thing. I don't watch Sports Center. Um, Dad didn't watch Sam the Cooking Guy on YouTube. He made sure that I had fun playing Candyland.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, that's huge, right? I mean, and I bet you had a great time having that experience with him too, right? Beyond what he's going to hold on to of that, like the experience of getting to hang out with your child.
And especially me, because like you and I are two different parents. Like I feel like you appreciate the little things a lot more than I do. And I'm probably saying this wrong, and I apologize to anybody listening or watching. Um, but there are some moments that I really try to tell myself, hold on to this moment because this may be the last moment.
Yeah.
Um, because you never know. Next thing you know, you got to think, I have a teenager now. I have 2 teenagers now.
Yeah.
Did you
How'd
did
that
you
happen?
Yeah, exactly. Like I never thought that was gonna happen. And you always wish for, man, I can't wait for my kids to just shut up. I can't wait for them to just keep their mouth shut. I can't wait for them to quit talking. And one day they're gonna quit talking. They're not gonna want to talk to you anymore. And you're going to you're going to be lonely. You're going to regret ever saying that. Like, and I think about it. So Noah sits there and he just nah 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 nah, and I'm like, Noah, stop. Because like sometimes we just want peace and quiet.
Yeah.
And I sit there after I tell him to stop making noise. I'm like, but he's not going to be my little baby forever.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it's tough, right? Because like and I'll use you as an example, right? Like I have seen you in the span of like 2 minutes tell Noah to stop talking and then complain that Lucas doesn't talk to you enough, right? And like I'm not criticizing you in any way, shape, or form, but like it's so easy to forget that's the transition, right? Like he's gonna grow up, he's gonna stop talking to you. Like if you keep telling him to stop talking enough, he's gonna listen eventually. And
and
like
that's sad, but at the same time, like as parents, we want peace, but like we want peace in the short term, and the long term, we don't want that.
yeah. Well, and I think one of the things, and I don't you tell me that I'm a better dad than you. I don't think there's such a thing, but I think that you and I are very different parents. And I think one of the things that I do is I choose to live in that chaos, right? Like Alana's favorite thing right now is the Chattermax song from Bluey. I don't know if you're familiar.
I,
It's
I
this
I I know Chattermax, and like I can only imagine a
chaotic
song.
EDM, like do 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 do. She loves it, and she just wants to listen to it on repeat 24/7. It drives me bonkers. It's crazy, chaotic background noise. But like I can I can tune that out so that she can have a good time. Or I can lean into that and just like live in that with her, right? Like even if it's not what I would choose to do, I'll do that because it's what she wants to do. Because there are so many times that I ask her to do the thing that I want to do, right? Hey, we need to go to the store instead of going to the playground. We need to go to bed instead of staying up. We need to eat lunch when all you want to do is throw dry spaghetti at the wall. Like, you know, and so I choose my battles in that sense. But I always try to meet her where she's at and be a kid with her. Because it's as good for me as it is for her. Like that day when I came home from work and Emily had built a blanket fort, if I had been like, ugh, that's a dumb childish thing, I would have missed out on so much fun, right? Like we had such a good connection and such an amazing, fun, childish time playing in a blanket fort as 20 somethings. In the same way, if like every time Alana asks me to play catch or throw Hot Wheels down the slide or whatever she's doing that day, I'm like, oh no, baby, I'm too busy, or I just need to kick my feet up because I had a long day at work. Like I'm gonna have long days at work every day, right? Like not every day is a bad day, but like every day is gonna be a long day at work. I'm gonna constantly have excuses of why I can't do
That
that thing.
once that excuse works
Like,
once or twice, you're gonna keep using it. And
yeah.
I'm guilty
And
of it too. I am not a perfect dad, so like I know what excuses kind of work a little bit. So
yeah. And it's really easy to get kind of complacent in that, right? And when you when your kids keep asking and you keep saying no, eventually they stop asking. Uh and that sucks. And so I've just made the choice that, with exception, right? Because again, I'm not a perfect dad either. Like if I physically can play with Alana and she asks me to play with her, I'm gonna do it. Like I have responsibilities, right? She asked me to play just before I came in here to podcast. And I said, no, baby, I got a podcast, but hey, this is the plan. Let's talk about our night. Derek and I are gonna record our podcast, and then we're gonna have dinner with Mama, and then you and I can play, and we'll go to the park or we'll play catch in the bedroom. And she was like, hell yeah. And I know as soon as we finish recording, I'm gonna get tiny knocks on my door. Dada, come play.
and
Um,
kind of going back to what you were saying is comparison.
yeah.
I I again always see you like you are who I look up to as a dad because for one, you actually had a dad. Um, But there's probably a lot that you're not telling me. It's probably not like you're not telling our listeners, viewers, whatever. And that's okay. Like I'm not
Of
looking
course.
for you to put it all out there. Don't ever compare yourself. Like, yes, it's okay to have idols. It's you know, to an extent. Like one day I want to be like Goody. I want to be like, hey, instead of right now, I will make it up to you later today. Like you're not doing a bad job as dads, as moms, whoever's listening to this. Like just because somebody you think somebody's doing it better doesn't mean they're actually doing it better because social media will only tell you what you want to see, not what actually is going on. Like again, I a lot of the time make excuses. I a lot of the time will say no for whatever reason or tell my kid to, let's not make a lot of noise, but I know in about 10 years I'm gonna miss that. Like, and
Yeah.
it's sad to think about because these are my last two little babies until grandkids. And I don't want my grandkids to be soon, so I have another baby. I'm not having another baby just
Yeah.
to have a baby. Like, but like it's hard to I mean it's easy to want that one thing until you get it. It's that grass is
Yeah.
greener kind of thing until you get that green grass and you hate what it took to get it.
Yeah. Well, I think it's important to, not necessarily idolize other parents that you see, whether that's friends in your life or, people that you know, or your parents, or people online, right? Random Instagram moms or, dads on TikTok, posting games that they play with their kids and that kind of stuff. Like, it's healthy to see that and want it, right? It's healthy to want those vacuum lines or long for that, perfectly striped yard. Um, and it's healthy to see another dad playing with their kid and be like, "Oh man, I wish I played with my kid more that way." So that you can do it, right? Like it's if
Yeah.
you're the best dad around, you're not learning. You're not finding new ways to be a better dad and to grow and to find joy in life. Um, I have a love-hate relationship with like nursery tour videos on like Instagram and YouTube and that kind of stuff because I love looking at kids' playrooms so I can be like, oh man, I want to do that in Alana's room. Or like, yeah, that would be so cool one day if we had like a staircase so that I could build a rock wall for Alana to climb, right? Like, and like that's honestly that's my biggest thing is like the people who make like indoor jungle gyms out of their playrooms, like I want that. And I rent, so like I'm not I'm not building a rock wall in Alana's room anytime soon. Like, but like I built a ballet bar for Alana that has like mirrors and a bar that she could pull herself up on as an infant, and now like she plays in and stuff as like a ballet bar because I saw a nursery on TikTok that had a ballet bar wall. And I was like, I can't do that because we're in this situation, but I can build this modular piece that I can secure to the wall that will come off easily when we move and I can take it to another house, right? Um, and I wouldn't have done that if not for seeing that thing. But it's also so easy to be like, man, I can't do XYZ. I don't have this or that, or I don't have the money, I don't have the time, I don't have the skill. Um, and the reality is like you have other things going for you. You have other things, and that's why you don't have those things, right? And like part of it's just affluence, right? Like rich people gonna rich. It's a it's a reality of the world. There
Yeah.
are some things that I just can't do because I don't have $1 million. Um and Alana will never have that particular childhood experience of, going to Milan at 2 years old, because we're not like I can't afford to go to Milan. But I have time, I have love, I have playfulness. And so, it all goes back to priorities. Like, what matters to you more? Vacuuming that playroom or playing in it? What matters to you more? Mowing that lawn or spending the time that it would take you to mow that lawn to play with your kids and maybe having one grouchy, shitty neighbor think, ugh, that lawn's not very nice. Like, you
Yeah,
know,
like I can tell you, like right behind me, the neighbor has like for the longest time I thought it was AstroTurf. It is a beautifully manicured lawn. You look at my shit, not cut that shit down and it's brown. Like, because I don't care. Like, again,
Yeah.
it's those are my vacuum lines that I'm not going to want, because I'd rather be inside, or I'd rather be outside. The weather's warming up, or I can't even say warming up. It's Arizona. It's heating up.
Yeah, it's hot.
And so, like, instead of vacuuming the floor, hey, let's go outside and throw water balloons. I sent you that picture the other day. I was like, hey,
Yeah.
I have over 7,000. I had 7,700 water balloons that I bought on eBay for under, or no. I think it was like $130. So those of you listening, watching, whatever, water balloons are dirt cheap on eBay. Go buy them. Like, your kids will love them. And then now, like, the pool is clean. It's everything else. For those of you who listened to what, a couple of 2 or 3 episodes ago, where my pool is absolutely dog shit. It's clear, crystal clear now. So instead of worrying about what lines are on my floor, hey, let's go outside and go swim in the pool a little bit. Or those of you who don't have pools, like I said, water balloons, or let's go to the park like you like to do, which is right down the street from me too. I don't ever go because honestly, I don't know where it's at. But small things. Don't worry about, like, when you walk into your buddy's house and his house looks perfect, because I can guarantee you, 99.9% of the time, it does not look like that.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's this weird thing that I think a lot of us grew up with, and it's a level of toxicity that kind of seeped into I can only speak for my existence, but I know it's a toxic trait that Emily picked up from the way that she was raised, which is when we're having company over, everything has to be flawless, right? Like, it can't look, this needs to be a model home. The floor needs to be vacuumed, the mirrors need to be polished, the toilets need to be scrubbed, and the you got to go through with a white glove, and if anything comes up a speck of dust, you got to do it over again. And I just could not be bothered to give a fuck about that. Like, don't get me wrong, if the toilet's dirty before you come over, yeah, I'm gonna take a brush to it. If there's like dust on our kitchen table because we've been eating on the couch and we're planning on having dinner with you guys at the kitchen table, I'll wipe it down and I'll clean it up.
Yeah, simple
but like
things.
I'm not going to put away every single one of Alana's toys just so that Noah and Ivy and Alana can come through like a tornado and take all of them off the shelf, right? Like, I'm not gonna straighten every book on my bookshelf so that it's perfectly spined and everything is OCD levels of perfect. And that's because I don't care, right? And if it matters to you, if that's important to you, then great. I mean, do it. But there's so much, like, I don't mind that my house looks lived in because I live here.
And I'll say the biggest thing, nobody gives a fuck what your baseboards look like. God, like, that's one thing that, like, it's, again, it's I live in a we live here household. And yes,
Yeah.
it is that also kids are to be seen and not heard. I think I'm saying that right. Like, growing up, that was me, that was my wife, or the way she was raised. um you have children, but you don't want your house to look like you have children, and it's such a a thing to pull ourselves out of.
Yeah.
Like, I think I was more extreme than she was, and hence why I'm now like, fuck it, I don't care, come to my house. I will throw books on the floor to make
Yeah, I was
my
gonna say
house
you swung too hard the other way.
But, like, I anybody who's coming to my house, I don't care. I
Yeah.
really don't care what you think my house looks like, because
Well, and the debate that I've always had with Emily, not to cut you off, but like the debate that I've always had with Emily is like, who are we inviting to our house that is going to judge us based on the way that it looks? And if I thought that when you came over to my house, you'd see that I left a sweater laying over the back of the couch and be like, he's kind of trashy. You're not the kind of person I'd invite over to my fucking house.
fucking
Like-
thank you. Fucking thank you. Honey, I love you. But yes, right here.
Yeah. No, and that's, I mean, it's so tough for me. And the thing is, it can be such a slippery slope, right? Because like you see that thing, um, and you're like, oh man, like that dad on Instagram, I saw his playroom for his kids, and it's so much cooler than mine. Oh, the same dad posted, and their kid they have like a trampoline in their yard, and I can't afford that, or like our HOA doesn't allow it, or whatever the reason. Like, oh, that they just bought a 4x4, and they're doing all this cool stuff. Like, it becomes this thing where like, oh man, like I wish my kid had a dad like that. I wish my kid had those things. And it breaks my heart, man, because like it's okay to want better for your kids. I want Alana to have the world. I want her to want for nothing. When she
Oh, of
asks me for
course.
something, I want to be able to give it to her. But the reality is, like, she doesn't need all that shit. She doesn't need the Montessori playroom that I'm idolizing in my brain. She doesn't need the trampoline in the backyard that I think would be really cool because I never had one as a kid when I was growing up. Like, what she wants, what she really needs is me as a dad. Like, you're supposed to be your kid's dad. You are the best dad for your child. Period. End of story. No argument. You are in your child's life and you are watching this because you care about them. You are the best dad for your child. Um, and anything that makes you feel otherwise sucks and fuck that thing. Like, because it's so easy to slip into that mentality of like, oh man, like my kid's life would be better if they had that dad with a cool playroom. No, it wouldn't. It
No,
wouldn't. You're
because it's
supposed to
not
be a dad.
you.
Yeah. And like and those, I guarantee you that Instagram dad, his kids are somewhere watching some YouTube video of a dad playing baseball in a dirt lot with his kids and going, "Man, I wish our dad would get out and do that." Or, whatever.
It's
Like
true.
there's
Very
always, like
true.
Derek said, the grass is always greener until you get there, right? Like there's always something else to long for. Don't slip into that trap of thinking that just because your house doesn't have vacuum lines means that you're not a good mom or not a good dad. Like you live in your house, you play with your kids. That's how it's supposed to be.
No, like we are all just doing the best that we can, and that's all that really matters. Just do the best that you actually can and reach out. Like if you feel like you're struggling for whatever reasons because you don't have those vacuum lines and that lawn stripe, like reach out to those who are going through the same shit. Like you, again, you are a dad. Our friend fucking Nate, a dad. So if I needed something, I can reach out to the two of y'all because y'all we're all in a group chat together. Like there's no shame in that. If your wife is going through something, say, babe, fucking reach out to a mom because she will understand something. It's
Yeah.
Sometimes it's hard getting out of the comfort zone because we feel like we're expected to have those vacuum lines, that lawn striping, but we are not. We are all human. We all work 40, 50, 60 plus hours a week. And sometimes all our kid wants is that 5 minutes. You
Yeah.
you think they give a fuck about the lines on the carpet? No, they give a fuck about the 5 minutes that you gave them.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. So to turn this on its head a little bit, how do you manage the dissonance between the way that you approach that stuff and the way that April does, right? Because I know for me, like, I mean, I've alluded to it. I mean, I've outright said it. Like, Emily cares a lot more about the organization and the cleanliness, if you will, of our house more than I do. Um, how do you help? Because obviously, like, you don't just want to leave her with that whole mental load, right? So, like, how do you balance that?
So I will say, like, the one thing that she has requested is that Sunday nights clean everything is organized. I won't say clean, I'll say everything is organized.
Yeah.
So she can start and because obviously most people work a Monday through Friday job. Okay.
Yeah.
So she can start the beginning of her week on a clean note, on a fresh note, that kind of thing. So Sunday night after the kids go to bed, let's clean everything up, let's put everything away, this, that, and another. So come 6:35, once the kids get up, she knows that, hey, I had this a little bit of I feel good about this before the kids just wreck it all. Like, and I want
Oh,
to
that's cool.
believe that she has taken, because again, like I said at the beginning of this, I have shared this story with her many times. Like, I like to believe that she has thought about it and she understands, because there are many nights within the past couple of weeks that we go to bed in the living room. Our living room is not very large, about at the size of this room. Um, covered in toys, because guess what? They're gonna get up tomorrow and they're gonna play with them, or they're gonna throw them or whatever. So it's not so much of a thing, but Sunday nights I try to give that to her, because I know that is the biggest thing. Give me once a week.
Yeah. No, that's great. And that's, I mean, there are little things, right, that you kind of figure out along the way, like, and it fluctuates, because right now we're in a kind of weird phase of life where, I won't get into it, but like Alana's wilding out because she's a toddler. Um, but like, for a long time, something that I tried to do was after, because I'm a little bit of a night owl. Like, Alana usually goes to bed around 9-ish. Emily usually goes to bed by 10, shortly after Alana does. I'm usually up until midnight. And so
You're like me, insomniac.
yeah, I mean, that's the reality of, I say night owl because it's more friendly than I have a chronic disease and can't sleep at night. Uh, but like, in that time span after Emily goes to bed and before I go to bed, something that I try to do, and I'm not successful in it all the time, but I try to get all of the dishes out of the sink, right? So like, the dishwasher doesn't necessarily have to be run every night, but a lot of the time throughout the day, we'll just throw dishes in the sink because we're busy. Like, I'm, dropping out. I work from home, so like, I'll have lunch in my office and then like set my plate in the sink to jump onto another meeting because I don't have time to wash it off and rinse it and everything before I got to get back in, actually, keep doing my job. Um, or I will have lunch as a family, but then Alana's wilding out and wants to go to the park, and so we just, we don't leave things on the table. We set them in the sink. So at the end of the night, I would go and clean everything in the sink so that when she woke up the next morning, the sink was clean, because it felt overwhelming to her to have dirty dishes when she, like, first thing in the morning. Um, and so just finding those little ways to show up, right? Like, um, because there's stuff, I mean, she does the same thing for me, right? I couldn't tell you off the top of my head, but I'm sure there are a million little things that she does because my OCD is triggered if a certain thing's not a certain way.
I mean, thankfully, I have a teenager who does the dishes every night. So
Must be nice.
we hey, have another one. You got one.
There you go.
I'll send them to your house. It's right down the street.
Perfect.
But no, it really is the little things. Like, you just have to know what your partner wants. If you have just that one kid, or you have two young ones or whatever, just know what makes them happy. And yes, I am guilty of, I will say, this past Sunday we did not clean up the living room, because Monday was a holiday, Memorial Day. Um, and our house is kind of in shambles right now because we're redoing the laundry room. Um, but I know if she starts cleaning and she's like, I need to make sure this is clean, babe, you know I am there, and I will do everything I can to make sure that come Monday morning when I'm heading off to work, you have just a little bit less stress.
Yeah. Just a little bit more vacuum lines.
Just the vacuum lines will last just a little bit longer.
Yeah. Well, thank you all for joining us. Life is crazy and hectic, and you're busy living in your house. So we appreciate you taking the time out of your day to listen to our podcast. Please share this with your friends. I know that we ask all the time, but like, it really does help spread the word. Our social
Or
media links are down
or
here.
or simply as just like and subscribe to our YouTube or any of our social medias. Like, sharing it is beneficial.
Yeah.
Like and subscribe also, so we can kind of see like who wants to hear what we have. Like we have so much information to give. We have so much knowledge. And also we want to hear from you guys. Like we can only experience so much. Like we are just two dads.
Yeah.
The world is massive. Everybody has all kinds of different things. Like, what do you want to hear? Do you want to be part of the show? Like, let us know that.
Yeah. And for our YouTube listeners, if you are subscribed to the show and you want to make sure that you don't miss any upcoming videos, um, click the little bell icon. It notifies you whenever we drop new videos. Derek and I are really working on putting out some more short form content, so you guys will
That's
see
right.
some TikToks and YouTube Shorts and Instagram Reels from us, hopefully in the near future here. And you know, it'll give you, you know, it'll just ping you and remind you, hey, proud of you is proud of you. We're we're putting out new videos, we're putting out new content, because we're buried pretty deep in the YouTube algorithm right now, and we're trying to climb our way out. So if you're subscribed to the channel, you might not get the notifications unless you turn on your notifications for our channel.
That's right. Because like again, at the end of the day, like we are not doing this because we want to get rich off of it. We don't want we're not trying to make a bunch of money off of it. We want to let dads know that hey, we're going through it too. There are other people doing the same thing that you're doing. Like reach,
Yep.
reach out to us, to your fellow dad, because we can help each other. My latest, I know by the time this gets posted, it won't be my latest. My latest post on Instagram is that it takes a village. Like
Yep.
take that advice from somebody else.
Absolutely. And like Derek said, if you want to be on the show, reach out to us. The best way to do that is to email us. Specifically, if you want to be on the show, email us at proudofyoudads@gmail.com. Um, you know, let us know what you want to talk about. What you feel you can bring to the dad community here, because we'd love to have some more guest dads on. We just had my dad on last week.
Which I loved that episode. Like that's probably still one of my favorite episodes because like I can see why you are who you are because of your father.
Totally, totally. Well, and that's not to go down a whole nother tangent here, but like that's one of the reasons why I try to be such a good dad, is because of the influence that my dad had on me, right? Like I credit so much of who I am to who raised me. Uh, I'm raising somebody, right? I
Yeah,
want to do the best that I can to have them look back and go, "Oh man, I'm really proud of my dad."
that's right.
Well, until next week, I'm Andrew Goody.
And I'm Derek Mata, who just finished my beer in bad timing.
And we are proud of you.